Now, one of the reasons why the Andersonites have to fold the book of Revelation on top of itself, creating massive confusion, one of the reasons they have to do this is because the 144,000 that get mentioned before their rapture don't get raptured according to a normal timeline. And so when you read in the book of Revelation, chapter 7, it talks about the 144,000, 12 from each tribe. And then it says, and after this I beheld a great multitude which no man could number. And so it's the immediate verse afterwards that they're saying is the rapture. But on a normal timeline, when you have a 7 year period, and you would see that this is happening in the first 3.5 years, and things like the mark of the beast and other things are happening from Revelation chapter 13 onwards in the second 3.5 years. In that normal timeline, what you see is 144,000 in Revelation 14. It says, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne, and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. And so it says, and these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. Um, these are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever that he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and unto the Lamb. And so it's pretty clear that this is when the 144,000 have been martyred. And now they're in heaven before the Lamb, before the elders. The usual story that happens in the book of Revelation is when when anyone is sort of before the elders and they're harping in heaven, that's when they're in eternity. So it's quite amazing if you go through a normal type of timeline. You see in the book of Revelation, from Revelation 6 to Revelation 13, describes the first 3.5 years. From Revelation 13 till Revelation 19, describes the last 3.5 years in a normal timeline. But they have to put the last 3.5 years and sandwich it, pancake it on top of the first 3.5 years because of this damning evidence that in Revelation chapter 7, it talks about the 144,000, and then it talks about them not being in eternity really until Revelation 14. Why would it just all of a sudden mention they're in eternity in Revelation 14? Well, obviously, that throughout that whole time period, there've been a lot of people say, "Oh, they were missionaries." I mean, that's usually every Christian needs to be a missionary, and every Christian needs to be a preacher, and every Christian needs to share the gospel. So that's what they would have been doing if they were just genuine, normal, average Christians. And so they've been going around all that time doing this. And so this is damning to the Andersonite concept. But it also reveals why they have to pancake things on top of each other. So they stretch things out to go longer than they do according to scripture, but they also cram things on top of each other. So they have Revelation chapter 6 and Revelation chapter 13 being the same story, but just different narratives, which is very strange. The book of Revelation never ever tells you to do that, and it ruins the natural reading. The natural reading would be you have a pre tribulation rapture, and then you have martyrs who all die. None of them go, no one alive goes in that rapture that they're talking about, which is the pretty much just a resurrection. And so, but the 144,000 I mentioned before that, but then it talks about them in chapter 14. So obviously, they didn't go in the what they call the rapture, because it says here there were sealed, 12,000 of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. And it says, and after this I beheld a great number. So this is in Revelation chapter 7, but it's not until Revelation 14 that we see the 144,000 in heaven. So why didn't they go in this rapture? If this is the rapture, the second coming, on, and all the rest of it that they're claiming, why aren't the 144,000 mentioned until Revelation 14? So they've thought about this and thought, well, we have to make it so it's Revelation chapter 7 and Revelation 14 are the same chapter then. And so this is what we see with the pre-wrath guys. They're oftentimes just sandwiching everything on top of each other. You know, the rapture and the second coming are the same event. Oh, the 144,000 Revelation 7 and Revelation 14, oh, that's the same. You know, the Antichrist and Revelation chapter 6, oh, that's all the same. And so you see this type of word games, this type of scriptural gymnastics, which is not a natural way of reading the text. A natural way of reading the text is to read from Revelation chapter 6 all the way through to Revelation chapter 19 as a 7 year period, with the cutting point in the middle, the 3.5 year period, separating two distinct 3.5 year periods, being Revelation chapter 13, when the mark of the beast and all that's brought in. Before that, the mark of the beast is not there. It doesn't talk about the mark of the beast in Revelation 6, but they all say, oh no, the mark of the beast is there. You know, they have to imagine it's there. They have to imagine that these 144,000 went in the rapture, when clearly a natural reading, you would read through this and then go, oh, hang on, Revelation 14, what are they doing there? And it's quite interesting that Anderson, who denies the Holocaust, he doesn't believe that the Jews were slaughtered by Hitler in concentration camps and systematically destroyed. He says that these 144,000 are actually resurrected Old Testament people, because he believes that Jews no longer really exist. So you have layer upon layer upon layer of absolute confusion. And so it's quite amazing. The more I look into this pre-wrath, um, post-trib position, the more I see absolute confusion.